And then I started medical school here in January, and COVID happened. I had an ACL knee surgery. So I blew up my knee playing basketball. So I lost my outlet, which is like sports and like working out. And then I went through a 6-year long-term distance relationship breakup, which was challenging because that was part of my self-identity. And I didn't even know that at the time. And then medical school is challenging. So like all these things were resurfacing, or maybe like situational issues at once. And I'm like, I'm in a similar headspace that I was when I was 18 or 19, but I'm more self-aware of it at this time, as opposed to just trying to toughen up and brush it off and not talk about it and suppress it. I'm like, okay, I probably should go seek support. So I sought support, the counseling services here at the med school. And they said, Zach, I think you should journal your thoughts. I think you need to express them down on a piece of paper or on your phone or an app, or just get them out. And so you can like write to be more clear. So I'm like, okay, I could do that. Or I can kind of do what I did with my transcripts. I could just share my thoughts on a video. I'm like, TikTok seems like a cool opportunity to do that. So I did that, and then it just snowballed. But it's the same formula: vulnerability equals relatability equals empowerment. So that's kind of how I got on TikTok, and that's where I'm at.
I love that, man. I think like, well, I'm assuming that a lot of people who have heard of you and who follow you wouldn't have heard that part of your story, because it's obviously quite hard to get that across in a 15-second or 60-second TikTok. So thank you for sharing, man. I think it's really great to have the kind of context around, you know, where you were all those years ago with, you know, being a dropout and the place that you found yourself in. And then similarly, where you were in January with, like you said, the long distance relationship breakup, you know, the ACL, which is, you know, I've had the fair share of my injuries through playing football, soccer. So I know what it's, I know what it's like when you have those injuries. It can be really, it weighs heavy on you, because it's kind of, you've lost that, like you said, that outlet, you've lost that playtime for yourself. And it's like, you're frustrated that you can't do it. And then you've got the rehab and it compounds, right? So when you kind of started sharing on TikTok, what was your kind of initial feeling about that, in terms of, were you a bit nervous, or was it a bit like, let me just throw this out there and see what happens, similar to what happened on Instagram?
I was hesitant with TikTok as a medical student, and I thought TikTok's super cringy. And I also thought it probably may connect with like 1 or 2 people. And I was just blown away that it's impacted or connected with people, and the messages that I've received from it, and just like the opportunities like this to have because of it. I would have never expected that. I just thought I could share it and use it and hope maybe one more kid from Vermont it would connect with, because there's no reason to do that on your own. But I think if you're willing and open and you feel confident to do it, there's nothing more powerful than just sharing your story. Everyone has a story, and I think we can all learn from people's stories.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what you said before about it kind of being like a journal for yourself is really important as well, because there's a girl that I've had on the podcast who's super inspiring, called Steph Ellswood. She's based in the UK as well, but she's kind of known for kind of health and fitness and stuff. But her original account was called Healthy Chef Steph, and her backstory was that she had eating disorder, and to help herself get through that, she started to document her food on Instagram, and she started to kind of get traction from the recipes she was sharing, and that kind of journaling that she was doing for herself ended up helping other people, because they found themselves in similar positions, or they wanted, you know, healthy recipes or whatever it may be. And it for her, it's compounded, you know, and snowballed, like you said, on top of each other. So I think that journaling aspect's really important as well. And that's kind of what I do, I guess, with the podcast. Like, to give you some context, is like, I have the interview episodes, but then I do shorter episodes called In Focus sessions, where I kind of talk about one subject, and it's normally something that I've been feeling that week, or something that's been playing on my mind, and I really kind of sit down and explore what that means for me, and my ideas around it, my thoughts around it, and my learnings around it. And it's that those little, you know, 10-minute episodes become like my journal that I share with other people, and it's really freeing to do, you know.
Exactly. It's a form of personal therapy. And I think it really allows you to be in better tune with yourself. Like through these TikToks, or as silly as it sounds, it's like, okay, Zach, time to open up your actual thoughts, your emotions, judgment free, just put them out there. And I think speaking to yourself in either camera or audio, or sorry, video or audio, people connect with it because they feel like you're talking to them when really you're talking to yourself, right?
Mm.
It's a very intimate connection that you're able to develop.
Yeah, yeah, I love that because it's again, it's because you're being quite personal. People relate to it. It's like you know your equation. It's like people relate to that because okay, yeah, we go through different experiences in life and we have different things going on in our lives, but we feel the same things. Our emotions, our core emotions are the same emotions. If you can relate to what someone is feeling, you can understand the situation that they're in. And that's where I find stuff really interesting because you can start to connect with someone emotionally rather than just by circumstance or where you're at in life. It's like you're actually connecting through the way that you both feel.
Absolutely. And I can't even imagine the over the last, was it 3, 4 years that you've had this podcast, the guests or the people who have listened and them sharing their stories and just, and it's the lives you change, but it's a pay it forward thing too, right?
Mm,
Because instantly, I don't know about yourself, but when there's an eye-opening thing for me or I learned something from someone else, the thing I want to do is I want to go share with 5 or 10 people, or just like then it's boom, boom, boom. It's
mm,
exponential. So
yeah.
it's
And
amazing what you're doing on this platform.
thank you, man. I appreciate it. And that's for me why, like, at the end of each episode, I always say, like, if this episode has hit you or you've related to it or, you've taken something from this and someone else who's going to be able to take some value from this episode, then share it with them because that's where you really get, like you said, the exponential learning on stuff because you share. And it's like when you come to social media, you can DM people stuff on TikTok. You can duet stuff that you like so other people can see it. You can send it via WhatsApp or Messenger, whatever it is. And it's like I'm always like that, especially with like some of my friends and even some of like my coaching clients. It's like I'm always sending them stuff like, oh look, I just read this article, I think it'd be really helpful for what we were talking about last week. Boom. And I just try and share the learnings. And again, it comes back down to the podcast as well. Like I try and share my learnings that I'm making almost in real time.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about self-awareness a bit then, because we've kind of already mentioned it. And you were saying before that self-awareness is really important when it comes to, not necessarily just mental health, but I guess like managing and dealing with emotions, with just everything in life, like understanding where you're at in life. What's that journey of like building your self-awareness been like for you?
It's been, I guess, up and down. Lately, more highs than lows. And I think self-awareness, it depends how you use it, right? It's a spectrum of emotions. So if I'm grateful or I'm happy, I appreciate the fact that this afternoon I was at the beach with my friends and we like this moment, right? I think self-awareness is almost about being in the moment, like your quote says right beside you. Um, and I think spending time focusing on mindfulness, focusing on gratitude, um, and as cool as it sounds, like taking time away from this thing,
Yeah.
right? They stop the immediate gratification or the stimulation of your phones or your friends or texts or whatever that is. Um, but I think in terms of self-awareness, the one thing I really want to touch base on, I thought was super helpful. One of a psychologist from Melbourne taught me this. It was called setting micro goals. So people think like this cliche saying, "It's okay not to be okay."
Mm,
Um, I agree with that full heartedly, but I think that's true to an extent. When you're not okay, the first thing you want to do, and most people want to do is, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good. Or I'm fine. Or just don't talk to me. It's like, no, I think it's, I'm sad. I'm stressed. I'm anxious. These are feelings that are normal. I'm human,
mm,
but you don't know when they hit, when they flood. So let's say it's Thursday, 6:32 p.m. and I feel those emotions. I say, okay, I'm going to set a 30-minute timer on my phone. I'm going to allow myself to feel as opposed to suppressing it. And then at 7:02 p.m., I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to walk down the street. I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to just something small, micro goal to allow myself to transition out of that. So being self-aware, obviously enjoying the moment, but being self-aware in the sense that if I'm not feeling okay, to let myself feel that and then transition out of that is something that's been really helpful for me the past few months.
Yeah, and I love that as well, because I was going to ask you about how you deal with the moments when you're feeling a bit more low. And I think I'm quite big on like leaning into those emotions. So it's like if you're feeling anger, sadness, you know, fear, whatever it may be, allow yourself to feel it. Like when you push it away, and I talk about this quite a lot, like in when I do webinars or like on the podcast or whatever, it's like when you try and push an emotion away, all you're doing is creating a conflict around that emotion, because you push it and you're saying, I don't want to feel this emotion. So every time you feel it, you're making yourself feel bad for feeling the emotion. But there's nothing wrong with the emotion, because it's, like you said, it's just part of the spectrum of feelings and emotions that we have. There's nothing wrong with it. It's like lean into that, allow yourself to feel it, and really just go through it. Like and you know, it doesn't mean to sort of wallow in sadness all the time, but like you said, find something that will then help you break out of that feeling cycle, because you can get caught in it. Like find, and I love that idea of micro goals. Like I think that's so powerful, man. It's like I've not quite heard it put like that, in like finding just those little things, like, you know, take a shower, go for a walk, you know, call a friend, whatever it is. Like I think that's really, really awesome, man.
Thanks, man. I just recognized it was getting bad, like when I was like feeling bad. Like if I was feeling bad or I was having a rough night, I would just want to isolate from the
Mm,
world. And I think we isolate because we form these identities with our friends or our family that we're this person, and we always have to be that person. And if we're not that person, we're just going to turn off or like not talk to any of them, and then like come back the next day or in a couple days. But I think if we just did those things, kind of what we chatted about, and showed them that we're more than one side and we are okay with that and comfortable with that slowly over time, we'd be happier with ourselves. And I think we'd have better relationships with the ones we love.
yeah. And have your relationships changed then, since you've kind of started to put yourself out there more, in terms of like the way you feel and what you feel online? Has that helped improve your relationships offline, so to speak?
Yeah, it's helped with my family and myself. In terms of my friend circle, it's more selective,
Mm,
which I think is probably a better thing as well. Um, but the biggest thing is probably the one with myself that I've neglected by just being super busy or productive, whatever you want to call it.
mm,
But it's I wasn't in tune. I don't know. I didn't know what could make me happy. I didn't really know who I am. Like I said, for 6 years, my identity gradually changed to the relationship. Like, and then I was like, I don't have that to feed off anymore. I don't talk to her any days. It's like, who am I? Is this what I want to do? Who's really my friend? I don't know. It was a really questioning period of my year, to say the
y-
least.
yeah. And how did you navigate through that?
Yeah, so like I said, so TikTok was super helpful. Talking to my parents every single day was probably the most helpful thing. Um, Connecting with a few of my good close friends who are either like doctors or in the mental health space as well. That I've been very fortunate to get advice from, and that's the other thing too. Like my TikTok bio used to say, I never spoke on my TikToks. They said, I'm silent so you can be heard. A lot of times we don't want advice or be told what to do. I think I was very, very fortunate for have people in my life that were willing to listen or ask questions or judgment free. And I think that's so important that everyone can do. So it's very fortunate to have that, which caused me to be more introspective of, oh yeah, what was I thinking? Or like, like, do you know what I mean? So I think more just trying to like ask myself questions and have people in my life that were supportive for me to do so.
Yeah, I love that. I think the support network's really important, isn't it? And it doesn't, you know, for some people it might not be your family. It could just be a group of friends. It could be one friend. It could be your partner. But having someone that you can speak with, uh, you know, openly, without there being any sense of judgment, I guess, because I think that's maybe what stops a lot of us, is the idea of being judged for the way that we feel, particularly when we're, like you said, you try and be a certain person for a certain group of people, and it's like when you're not being that certain person, you feel judged for it. And I think having a space or someone or somewhere, it could even be in a therapy session, you know, it could be whatever it could, but somewhere where you can have that space to speak and feel like you're not being judged for that is so impactful, man. Just that someone holding that space for you to feel heard, I guess is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. It's so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, to have that outlet, whatever that is for you in your life that you feel where there's no judgment. 100%.